So the topic of today is I'm kind of tired of adulting. I been thinking about it a lot lately, and I will be 50 in 3 weeks. Yep, 50. And I'm kind of excited about it because I feel like for the first time in my life, my age kind of matches who I am as a person. I've always been kind of mature, not because I wanted to be. Anybody who's read some of my past posts know that my mom and dad broke up when I was like 2 years old. And then we moved in with my grandparents. Then my granddad died when I was like just under four. And so I was in the house with a divorcee and a widow and a very sick 2 year old. And so they treated me like I was the man of the house. And in fact, they told me I was the man of the house. And I had no idea what that meant. But being a kid and that being the world I grew into, I just tried to live into it. And so I spent a lot of my younger years being somewhat stressed out, hearing about bills and lights getting turned off and all the other things, and thinking that somehow I was supposed to be the man of the house. So I was always trying to figure out, well, what could we do? And I tried to get, my mom to make better financial decisions. And she would tell me, shut up, boy, I'm your mama. So it was a very stressful time. And but I had no options but to live into it. And so I spent a lot of my younger years both being very adultish at a young age, super Jesus-y, because my grandma was like all about Jesus. So I was all in church all the time and listening to Focus on the Family and all this other stuff. So that was just how I lived. That was all I knew. And by the time kids were like being irresponsible and then all this other stuff, I wasn't about that. I was just about trying to keep myself together and try not to embarrass my grandma at my funeral, because I also, being Black, growing up in a poor situation when my dad not around, the word on the street was I was going to be dead or in jail. And since I knew my mom would kill me if I did anything to go to jail, I just figured I'd be dead. So I lived into that and tried to live in a way that was honorable. And if I so happened to die, my grandma could come to my funeral and not be ashamed. That was my life goals. But somehow by doing that and reading a lot of books along the way, I managed to get out of my neighborhood and have a bunch of life experiences. But all the time, I was always adulting. I've been like writing checks to pay bills since I was like 7 years old. I've just been adulting. And now I have a kid that's about to graduate from high school, and I got a little one that's like 8. And I find myself just being like, I'm tired of this adult stuff. And one of the main things that's adulty that frustrates me right now is stupid paperwork. Like everywhere you go, paperwork. Everybody got to sign this, fill out this, do this. And everybody's trying to track all these documents. And anytime you try to do something in life, they ought to fill out all these papers. And then I think life would be a lot easier for everyone if they had universal basic income, free healthcare, and all these other things, just because we could cut out all the paperwork. And then people could just flow through life a lot easier. But that aside, that's one of the signs for me that I'm tired of adulting. But another thing that makes me feel tired of adulting is dealing with emotionally immature people of older ages who are supposed to be adults. I've been dealing with that my entire life. Ever since I was a child, I've watched people that were supposed to be adults act like children. And children, I don't even want to say they act like children, because I know a lot of children that are more emotionally mature than a lot of adults. That being said, some of the engagements that I've had in life, I'm kind of done with, or I feel like I'm done with. I feel like turning 50 is going to be some kind of mark. I mean, I'm making this crap up, but it's one of those, what they call landmark birthdays or whatever it's called. And I feel like at 50, I can say, man, I'm 50. And that can be answer enough for a lot of things that people present to me. If they present something to me that's goofy, I can just, man, I'm 50. And just everyone will know. So I'm looking forward to feeling a lot more liberation in how I engage with people. I already am about liberation as it is. I always have been, growing up from a group that's in the oppressed class, if you will. Liberation has always been my true north. Even my comedy style, I call liberation comedy, because liberation is what I've been about. But at the same time, we live in a society that's highly hierarchical and puts a lot of different strata on where people are. Like, if I said something now, some people would respect it. But I used to say the same thing when I was 8, and I get told, shut the H up. You see what I'm saying? So all these hierarchical things that exist in our society, whether it's age or race or finances, all these things. And I feel like when I turn 50, I mean, I'm closer to the grave than anything else for sure now. So I really don't give a crap. But I already didn't. But I think now is going to be socially acceptable for me to be this way. I'm hoping. I'm feeling like some people who, up to this point, they were like, thought I was too young or this or that or too this or too that to be how I was. They're going to be like, he's 50. And then they're just going to leave me alone. And that's what I think about when I think about being tired of adulting. I feel like I just want to be like, you know, you want to be silly, you want to make bad decisions, you want to do whatever you want to do. I've lived enough life that I know you're not going to listen to me anyway. So I'm going to go do what I'm going to do. I'm going to hang out with people who have lived enough life that we can have some conversations that are substantive. And I'm not going to waste my time on people who truly are, I'm not trying to put them down. If you read some of my posts, you knows that I've been talking about this concept I've been calling scredianity, which is what the name I made for people who say they're Christians but do nothing like Christ at all. I call them Scredians. When I'm 50, the Scredians, which is only 3 weeks from now, and I'm already letting them know, 3 weeks from now, I ain't got nothing to say to Scredians. I'm going to be like, listen, I'm 50. You can lie if you want to. That's some little kid crap. All of this 0% responsibility, 100% projection that you're about. Be about that. Get out my face. And I'm just going to walk away. Not mad. I'm just going to let them be who they are. And I'm going to be who I am because I'm 50, damn it. Well, 3 weeks away from being 50, Lord willing. So I want to encourage anybody who has lived enough life to not be about this crap anymore. Because one of the things I used to think about when I was younger is I never understood complacent and complicit old people. I used to always think, man, if I was old and somebody said this stuff about me and I knew I was closer to the grave than anything else, I surely would be telling people where to kick rocks or whatever the case may be. Because a complicit old person, I'm like, why are you complicit now? You ain't got that much time left. Just go straight gangster. Be about the life that you pretended to be about all your life. Just be about it because you're on your way out. You know what I mean? At least go out like a winner. You know, that's some of the things that I've been thinking about because I've seen too many complicit old people. Makes no sense. When I was in the military, I used to when I thought I was going to be, when I used to be like, oh, gung ho military, I used to say, if I'm old and there's some conflict going on, I'm gonna be like, yo, drop me in that joint because what do I have to lose, you know? And so if you're an older person, especially if you're over 50, I'm not 100% qualified to tell people over 50 what they should or shouldn't be doing. But in 3 weeks, I'm gonna be joining y'all's ranks. And I'm gonna be like, if I got 50-year-old scared friends, I'm gonna be, not only am I gonna say I'm 50 and look at them like they're crazy, I'm gonna say, man, you are 50. And I'm gonna look at them like they're crazy. Because how in the world that we have this this society that we have right now with all these years of knowledge and experience and history, and we are reverting, going backwards, and people are still scared? It's like, how? We have enough information now to make better decisions, and yet we still are making these scared, uninformed, extremely ignorant, hypocritical decisions collectively. And it's not just about the people that the Scrutians that do this. It's also the people who are adjacent to the Scrutians who don't say anything. They just like, I'm gonna tell you right now, not trying to be funny. I cussed out some of my family. Yes, I did. Why? Because they said a lot of ignorant things and I couldn't take it anymore. So I was like, listen, I'm not going to sit here and listen to you be crazy. And then if the consequence is that I am not in their life anymore, so be it. They get to be silly by themselves or away from me. And I get to spend my time with people who are less scrutineous. It's a win-win. If more of us were able to make these kinds of decisions, I think a lot of things would be better. But some of us are so concerned because we're emotionally immature. We're still concerned about how we look to other people instead of being concerned about how we look in the mirror. I don't care too much about how I look to other people. I care about how I show up in the mirror. I care. Now, I'm not talking about like looking good. Hopefully, you know what I mean. I mean, if I can look in the mirror and if I tell myself I stand for something, and then when I get in public, I'm like, I'm going to feel not so great about myself. So even if I did do that, I would tell myself next time I'm going to be more equipped, and I would practice and put in effort because, a lot of times we overestimate our abilities. That's just normal. But to overestimate your abilities, find out that you're not as capable as you think you are. And then your solution is to be in denial and project and distance yourself from anything that reminds you of how unequipped you are. That is the way of a screening, which is a weak minded person. And then no offense to weak minded people, I guess God made everybody. But at least if you're going to be weak minded, be quiet. But these folks, I'm going on a tangent. The point is, I'm too old for dealing with these people, or at least I'm 3 weeks away from being too old. And I'm also not tired in the sense that I want to go to sleep, but tired in the sense of like, hey man, I gave it my best shot. I tried with people who were emotionally immature. I had a habit because no offense to my mom, but my mom was not emotionally mature when she and my dad split up, and my grandma was not emotionally immature when my granddad died. You know what I mean? We lived in a society that's patriarchal, put women down. I understand, but they put a lot on me because of the illusions of our society that they were like, okay, well, you're the penis having individual in the house, because that's pretty much what it came down to. And now you're the man in the house, even though you're about to turn 4. That is senseless. That makes no sense. But they did that because of the system we're in, and people deferred to me. It could have been very confusing, and I could have been extremely messed up, and I might still be a little bit, but I am reflective, and I see the damage that did. That's why with my daughters, I'll tell my daughters, bow your head to no one. Not even me. I let my daughters give me a run for my money or whatever the heck it's called, because I want to know when they go out into the world, I want them to be able to hold their head up. And if somebody talks to them stupid, I want my daughters to be able to say, excuse me, unintelligent human being, I'm not going to listen to you because you don't know what you're talking about. I don't want them to be like deferring to guys. There's a lot of stupid men out there. No offense to the group that I'm with, but a lot of us aren't intelligent. And the reason why we're not intelligent is because no one challenges us. People just let us run roughshod over things, being extremely weak minded, and we just go and people go along with it. Like, we need to be challenged. People need to say, listen, sir, you don't know what you're talking about. And if they cry, show them a mirror. Let them see you are nothing like what you pretend to be. You are, where I grew up, I would call you a PAB. And if you grew up where I grew up, then you know what I mean when I say PAB. It's too many PABs in our society, mostly men. Sorry to say. But I was raised by women, and even though my mom did that kind of acquiescent thing in the house for whatever reasons with me, but in the streets, my mom was not about that. I literally saw guys, unintelligent guys, step to my mom, and my mom put them in their place. That's why we suffered a lot. Because my mom, I remember I was like 6 years old, and I heard my mom yelling at somebody on the phone. And she said, as long as you sit on the toilet and your shit stinks, you are not better than me. And then I said, who you talking to, mom? And she said, my boss. And I said, are you fired? And she's like, yes. And she started her own business because she got tired of her boss talking down to her. He was a white dude, and he kept talking down to her, and she couldn't take it anymore. So she told him about herself. And then she had customers that sometimes wouldn't want to pay. Why? Because she was a woman. So they came about that stuff. And my mom wanted to be a pastor. She couldn't be a pastor. Why? Because she was a woman, because of our stupid, patriarchal, male, weak-minded society who thinks that that's being a mature person, thinks that's being an adult. A lot of these men who want things to go backwards is because they are afraid of being challenged. They know that they're stupid. So then they don't want an intelligent person to challenge them, especially not a woman. They just want to feel smart. And I have to say, I'm tired of dealing with these immature people. No offense. It's time to grow up, or stay away from me at least, because guess what? I'm about to be 50. I got 3 weeks, and in 3 weeks, I'm gonna be done. I'm gonna be done with adulting in the way that people try to adult. I'm not gonna be adults. I'm not gonna be the grown up in the room for emotionally immature humans. It's too many books. You see all these books I got on my shelf? Plus, I got books in my storage and library memberships and Audible memberships. It's too much information out here to still not know stuff, to not let yourself be challenged. It's too many opportunities to grow and learn and become the person that you pretend to be than to just sit around and stick your head in the sand like an ostrich just because you don't want to see the reality of where you are. It's awesome to see the reality. Then you can do something about it. This is the time to do something about it. And for a long time, because of my circumstances, I tried to help people snap out of stuff, even becoming a pastor, trying to help people snap out of this illusions. But after Scredo 2.0, and for those of y'all who don't know who Scredo is, I don't even want to say this man's name. The person, I don't know what you call him, this in the White House, that's Scredo. And his religion is Scredianity, and his followers and worshipers are Scredians. That's how I named them, so I can just check that part of my brain out that wanted to try to figure out how they were still Christians and stuff. They're not. They're over there. I'm putting them over there for my own mental health. But I'm just done dealing with it, because if they could grow up and stop being like, I'm better than you and all this other kid crap, we would have a much better, equitable, and functioning society. But they made their choice. So I respect them. I don't respect them, but I respect their choice to be people with their heads in the sand. I'm going to walk around them and walk away from them. In 3 weeks, it's going to be complete. I'm already in the process. That's why I wrote a song about their Scredianity. I've written 2 posts about their Scredianity. And if you follow me on Facebook, you know I've said a bunch of stuff. I don't care if you're family, friends, whatever. I'm not going to be mean to you, but I'm not going to pretend like you're a mature person. And I know you're not, because most of the people that I know who are Scredians, if you confront them, they know that they don't know stuff. I have friends who have told me some of the dumbest things I ever heard in my life when they try to justify their Scredianity. And now that I've accepted it, I don't even have to worry about it. I'm just going to cut off that part of it. I'm not going to listen. And I'm just going to let them say whatever they got to say. And I'm going to go live my life. And I encourage others to do that. Some of your family members, some of your friends, it's time to let them go. They're not about anything. I'm not saying it in a mean way. It might sound mean, but let them have their life. Let them live their choices. If they want to grow up, leave them alone. Let them make their decisions and let them learn from their mistakes. That's my mistake. I was an overprotective person because of how I was raised. I kept trying to help people. I kept trying to warn people. I kept trying to go and say, no, don't do this. And I was raised evangelical, so I had that whole other thing going on. All of that is gone now because in 3 weeks, I'm 50. So as I prepare to sign off, I love y'all. Jesus told me love my enemies. The most recent post I wrote said, I have that, accept that. Basically, I have to accept that I have enemies so that I can love them. So if you're a Scredian, you're my enemy, but I love you to the degree that I can over there where you are. And other folks who want to wake up, who want to live a life of liberation, who want to enjoy their life experience, because many of us aren't even enjoying our lives because we're too busy worrying about people. Thanks, Marge or Marg. Um, we need to stop worrying about people that are not thinking for themselves. Let them learn. Don't try to teach them anything. If they say something crazy, just let them be that way. If you want to say something, say, listen, you're not intelligent. You know you're not. I'm not trying to insult you. Just go read books and learn stuff and then just walk away, because many of us deserve to have joy in our lives. I mean, how many of us have lived our entire life and we miss out all the joy because we worried about somebody else, somebody who's not worried about us? I mean, more than half of the Scredians, they think that Scredo cares about them, and he doesn't care about them whatsoever. But they spend dedicating their whole life to this religion of Scredianity, and believe me, it's a religion. I'm gonna say this last thing before I get ready to go. If we don't accept that these Scredians are in a religion, we're gonna keep trying to use logic and all this other stuff. Religions defy logic. As a Christian, I can tell you, one of my friends who's a Christian, he's probably more Scredian now, right? he was saying to me one time, like, I don't understand why these other religions don't follow what we say and why they can't be open minded and believe us. And they got all these crazy thoughts. And then I said, yeah, like a man being born from a woman without having sex and then like walking on water and turning water into wine. I said, yeah, they're crazy. And then he kind of looked like, because he knows our religion sounds crazy too. Some aspects of it. I'm more inclined to focus on the actual teachings that help you become a more conscious human being than miracles. I don't concern myself with those things. Unfortunately, that's just not my high role. But that's the thing. Religions are irrational to some degree. They're imaginative, but we don't understand how we use imagination to inform possibilities, then we're missing the boat. A lot of us are stuck in our imaginations. And if you don't realize that about the Scredians, who are completely gone for the most part, if they're true believers, they're out of here. Like, you have to accept them as religious zealots. You can't think of them as rational people that you can talk to, because you can't talk to religious zealots of any kind. Even if those people say they're atheists, they still can have a religiosity to them and a zealotry to them, and there's no talking to them whatsoever. They're just going to have their experience. But you know what you can do? You can have your experience too. Just stop trying to talk people into agreeing with you or believing what you believe. Just express yourself, be free, be creative. That's what I'm leaning into. I'm like making music. I'm doing stand-up comedy. I'm like speaking. I'm making workshops. I'm just having fun. And for the whatever I have left of my life, which is less than what there's less grains in the freaking sand. What's it called? The hourglass. I accept that. Yeah, I don't have that many grains. I don't know how many I have, but it's less than what I have so far, unless I'm gonna go over 100. And I don't necessarily not excited about that thought. So, because I got less grains in the sand, I'm gonna make the most of my grains that I have, and I encourage you to do the same. And some of that, thanks Credo, is to know who to not waste your time on, and then to get clear on who you should engage with. So, thank you for whoever watches this now, whoever watches this in the future. I want to say that even if you're a Scredian and I called you my enemy, it's not a permanent thing unless you make it permanent. If you read my post, I said that the word enemy comes from the Latin word inamicus, which basically means not my friend. So people can always go from not your friend to your friend. But to do that, you got to get to know each other. You got to make changes. You got to be able to switch up. You got to be able to let that person's story be a part of your story, and vice versa, all that stuff. If you can't do that, you're going to stay inamicus, you're going to stay enemies, and then that's okay too. We can't be friends with everybody. So, peace. Thank you for your time. If you enjoy the things that I create, share it with other people. Just because, there's a lot of times that things that we learn from and we don't share it, and we share the stuff that's trash. We share the stuff that makes us feel like crap. I'm trying to help people not feel like crap. The people who want to be helped, not everybody. Some of y'all. So if you get something out of it, share it. If you listen to my song "Bless You, Scredo," and you think it's hilarious, because it kind of is, share the song and say Scredian too, because we got to be able to name this. That's why I created it, so we can name it, put it where it needs to be put, and then we go forward. So thanks again to everybody who joined. Marg, you said I said it right, but I said two things. So Marg or Marge, one of those. And then Sandra, who I see, and then the other people. It says it's 5 people, but I only see 2. But I appreciate you and enjoy your day. Blessings to you.